I honestly don't even give a shit because I have Google at my fingertips anyway, but like I just want to have the damn conversation. So to start, introduce yourself.
Oh, see, you didn't even give me a heads up to even come up with an introduction for myself. Thanks a lot, friend. Okay. So I'm Izzy. Izzy Goes It on TikTok. And I'm a creator who likes to talk about topics that I think happen to be interesting sometimes, that happens to be topics that relate to my culture. I'm a Haitian immigrant. And the reason why we ended up connecting is because you watched one of my most popular series on TikTok, which happens to be my series relating to the origin of the zombie. And how like the modern day zombie, like borrowed is the nice way to say it, but the right way to say it is bastardize the original Haitian zombie. So hi.
Hello. Thank you for doing this. We've been trying to do this for literally weeks. But all right, so yeah, so from my perspective, I'm scrolling TikTok 3 in the morning. I don't even know when I hit you up. I think it was late.
I think it was really funny because I get a lot of spam. Why is every spammer on IG? Like every spammer is on IG. So every now and again I'll get those requests and I'm just like, all right, here we go. And I got this message, but because my page is, well, the way it is on TikTok is like you have to either be friends with somebody to send them a message. So people have to go to my Instagram, which is linked to my TikTok, to send me messages. So every now and then it does happen that people will want to reach out to me to tell me something outside of my comments. So that's why I actually open all of the messages just to make sure I catch some of them. But like when I saw the message from you, I was just like, is this spam?
I felt that vibe too.
Like, oh, it seems legit.
I felt the vibe at first. You're like, stranger danger. And I was like, no, I'm like, this is a real thing. I watched the videos and I didn't watch all of them actually. I just watched like the most popular one that came up on
the one that actually went viral.
Yeah.
Which is like video number, oh my God. It's because, like I said, it's an actual series.
Yeah.
I think I have a playlist on my page called Everything Zombie. Yep. And the video that actually in that series, there are 2 videos that went viral. The very first one, because I didn't set out to talk about the zombie. I'll talk about it in a minute. But the very first one, and then that one, which happens to be called like, which is when I actually get into talking about the myth, the lore, and the facts about the Haitian zombie. And
fucking fascinating.
Go ahead.
No,
your perspective. Keep telling me. Go ahead.
Okay, so from my perspective, the video was talking about, I'm gonna fuck this up, but the video was talking about how the zombie that we know, and the I guess would it be like the whitewashed zombie? Is that
the modern? I call it the modern day zombie, and I think it's very important to call it that way. And I'll explain why later. Go ahead.
Okay, so the modern zombie that I know has its roots, I think you said in Haitian culture and West African.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so it's not necessary. There is lore, like you said, behind it, but there's also a real history of it. And that was fascinating to me because when you're terrified of fucking flesh-eating zombies being a real thing, and then you find out, well, wait, they are a real thing. And it was the story of the man that walked into the hospital and was like, hi, I died here. And then was brought back to life. And in my head, I'm watching, and again, it's like 2-3 in the morning. I couldn't sleep, and I'm like, "Is this fucking real, or is this like a story?" And it turns out it's real, right?
Real, yeah. So
you go. Take it.
let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
So the reason why I say it's the modern day zombie, not whitewash zombie, and this is actually that series is both a blessing and a curse, and because when it went viral, it took me a month to do that entire series. It took me weeks to research and then edit and then post. And most of the pushback that I got was from people around the world arguing with me that this is incorrect. Because one of the claims I make is that the zombie is Haitian, right? And when I say that, I am talking about the term zombie. It is a Haitian word. Okay.
It's now ZONBI.
Yeah, it's spelled ZONBI. That is, or there is a disambiguation for ZOMBI. That is the original term, and that is ours. Although it does have its roots from West Africa. Like it did come from slaves from West Africa, right? Okay. So the term zombie is Haitian, but the modern day zombie that we know, which is the undead creature that eats flesh and comes back, and that is an amalgamation of a lot of lore from all over the place, right? Because the modern day zombie is technically like especially from Hollywood, it's initially the very first time it came on the screen, I believe, was in 1968. And remember, I tagged you. I'm not sure if you had the chance to watch it, but it was from George Romero's Night of the Living Dead from 1968, and that was the very first horror movie that had like the very first prototype of what I call the modern day zombie, which is and his creatures were supposed to be ghouls. Now, ghouls fall under the term of revenants, because throughout the world, if you're human, you're gonna have different beasties that are undead. So there are different names and different types of undead creatures, right? They all fall under the revenant umbrella. And a ghoul is supposed to be kind of like a spirit, I think, that stays in the graveyard and munches on bodies. So they went with that particular one because they were broke and they were working out of a hangar, and they were like, you know what? If we could just make a set just in the hangar in a graveyard, that would be great. And then they were like, you know what? We're actually gonna add some more stuff to it to make it more interesting. So they added vampire rules that, we're gonna make sure that if you get bit by this thing, you can get infected, you die, you come back, and they like to eat flesh, and you have to shoot them in the head to kill them. So they made up this whole thing, but the whole time in the movie, they called it a ghoul. It wasn't until after the movie was released that for some reason, French movie critics, and if you don't know anything about Haiti, we were a French colony.
Okay, yes.
So some more French subjugation for you right there. For some reason, the French critics, when they got their hands on this movie, they loved it. It was the first horror movie of its kind that was really gory and violent. They loved it, and they called the creatures zombies. And by the time the reviews came back to America, one of the movie critics at the time, named Rex Reed, went ahead and quoted one of their famous movie reviews back there. And he was the first American to call them zombies, and people ran with it. And it's really funny because George Romero is very famously quoted back in the days, like, what do you mean? They're not zombies. Zombies, because at that time, Hollywood had a few movies that were based on the actual Haitian zombie, which is its own separate thing, which I'm gonna go over. And he was just like, zombies are those things from the Caribbean. These are not zombies, they're ghoul. But we were like, no, those are zombies. We love the zombies. And then it stuck. It had a whole cult following. People were asking for more zombies. And he was like, oh, you about to give me the ka-ching for this? And he just ran with it. And that's it. History was made.
And that's
His
it.
very next movie, zombies. Okay.
And so now that's how we get to Walking Dead zombies.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So this is why I'm telling you what he harmlessly, because a lot of people would like to remove harm from George Romero because he did not call them zombies. And it is correct, he did not call them zombies the first time. But during the second movie, he did go with it. And he knew what they were.
He knew
he knew what the zombies were, but he was just like, I want the monies. And people are loving these zombies because people thought that they were these exotic new creatures. They loved it. And for some reason, I mean, I kind of get like zombies sound cooler than ghouls for some reason. So they just went with it. So,
scarier for sure.
Well, I mean, I'm saying like just the term zombie sounds cooler than saying ghoul anyways, because I think in the movie they either called them ghouls or flesh biters. It didn't have the zest that it needed. Exactly. So they just went with zombies later because people were in love with that term. So, and the reason why I even got, how did I get into this? My very first video, like I mentioned, that went viral is because by the way, I made this series over a year ago. And the very first video that went viral is because at the time I had a fellow creator of mine. She's a fellow creator of mine. She is what am I trying to say? She's a mutual of mine. Sorry, she's a mutual of mine. And she happens to be a practitioner. She's Haitian and she's a practitioner. And there was this other creator who happens to be white, who's also a practitioner, who I'm so sorry, I misgendered them. It's they are them. So yeah, so sorry. So
wait, is this the person that called your friend a big black something?
Yes, exactly. So sorry. So
no, don't be sorry.
No. So yeah. So I'm sorry. You know, I'm still working on my pronouns. I'm sorry, guys. But so my mutual, they got into this whole beef on TikTok last year with this practitioner who happens to be, you know, white American, and he made all of these videos like calling them out, telling them like, oh, you know, you just because you're Haitian, just because you're black, you don't own these practices. They're not yours. You know, I'm a practitioner. I have just as many rights to them as this. It was vile. There was a lot of like really vile back and forth between the two of them, and that kind of blew up. And I made a video talking about how not only like, you know, the whole conflict was like, you know, addressing the whole conflict and the fact that, you know, in his videos, he used imagery from American Horror Story to talk about some of the laws from voodoo, which happens to be, you know, a religion. It's not just, it's an actual religion. People think about it as like just magic or whatever. It's a religion. It's never treated as such, but people never give it the respect that they do for other religions. But, you know, I'm not a practitioner myself, but, you know, I understand that, you know, for people who practice it, you know, it is what it is. So I ended up making my video to point out that in his video, he uses a lot of iconography incorrectly, because like in American Horror Story, like the images that they used were like for different laws, like they were mixing up images, whatever. They were trying to, I made a video just pointing out that when it comes to Haitian culture, Hollywood has a history of just going like this, picking out what they like, whatever looks cute. And for some reason, like even if they have the source material that could work with what they still switch it up for whatever they think looks more aesthetically pleasing or whatever. And they get it wrong almost 100% of the time just to fit the narrative they're trying to push. Yeah. And I gave this whole list of like, you know, examples in popular culture of things that were based on Haitian culture, but that are completely, absolutely bastardized from the original, including the modern day zombie. That, you know, like, you know, what we're calling zombies now is nothing like the Haitian zombie. In that
which
video,
is the real
that actually is a thing, like that there is
Has
the
its
word
roots.
means something. Like, you know, like
Right.
it has a whole history. There's a like, and so after I made that video, it went viral, and people were like, what do you mean? Tell
That
me
was
about
what I did.
it's like, well, what do you mean? There's different types of zombies. Like, tell me more. Like, do they eat people? People wanted to know more?
They're real? Like what?
Like, yeah, wait, there's different types of zombies. And then I ended up making, again, like, I think that playlist has maybe 14 videos where I go over the origins of, like, you know, the term, where it came from West Africa, all of these things. I actually detail all these things. I actually go over the vocabulary, because a lot of times when you're having this conversation, it's hard to have it on TikTok. People do not have the attention span to listen to me, because the thing about it is, the biggest thing, like I told you, that I get pushback from is people telling me that's not true. There's zombies everywhere. Like, the Haitians can't claim to be that they're the only ones who have zombies. And at this point, because it's been over a year now, what I say is like, okay, what country are you from? They'll tell me the country. I'm like, okay, and where you're from, what do you guys call the creature you're talking about? And they'll put in a name. I'm like, you see how that's not a zombie? And I'm done with the conversation right there, because the whole point of this was to talk about the zombie. People have, like, I'm not denying that the concept of the undead exists over the world, but
right.
The zombie is Haitian.
It's Haitian.
And I would like to maybe, I don't know, raise some awareness about what exactly the Haitian zombie is, which finally, after, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 videos, finally you got to the actual part of the Haitian zombie, which is the second video, which went viral, where I describe what exactly is a Haitian zombie. So when you're comparing it to the modern day zombie, first of all, they're not undead. That's the first thing. Like, they're not undead. They're regular people who are poisoned. And due to the poison, they're made to look dead.
Poisoned.
They're
poisoned.
They're poisoned.
Okay.
There are different methodology of how to do it, but they're poisoned. The poisoning results in them looking dead. And then, or sometimes, I mean, hold on, it can go wrong. Like the zombification process, like that was, I think, the video right after the one that you saw, is like, has multiple steps. So, like, the first one is the poisoning. So if you don't die from the poisoning, right, you know, you appear to be dead, and, you know, and you are buried. Yeah. Once you're buried, the person who did the poisoning comes, digs you up.
And this is real. This happens in like, it has happened in real life.
So to be fair, this is what I've never zombified somebody. I just want to let me just hold on. Let me give a few disclaimers, okay? Before moving forward. Okay. I've personally never zombified someone. I don't know any zombies personally, but I will tell you that in my own culture, we grew up knowing about zombies, right? And just like in the video that you're talking about, that you saw, my mom, knew about, like, the guy who came into the hospital talking about, like, she worked at the hospital, right? He worked at the hospital, and he had been declared dead, and blah, 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 blah. So what I'm trying, and again, the reason why I chose to talk about, it was just, as I was doing that series, I was telling her that I was doing the series, and she was like, oh, it's interesting that you're talking about the zombie, because she told me the story. I'm like, what? I have to include that story, because that is an amazing story that gives, not only does it give you, like, because, you know, I think, like, I made sure that everything that I did in that series, like, you know, was based on, like, articles and things like that. But I always feel like oral histories are just as important. People dismiss them, but it's nice to also have that component. So it was an amazing story. So I was so happy that she happened to, by coincidence, had been in proximity to this having happened. And then but the reason I even chose to make that is because this is the story of that man is the only document, well, at least at the time, it was the first documented case of zombification by the West. The articles that I used were published by Harvard University. So if you want to come at me, take it up with Harvard, okay? Like, here are the list of my resources. You can go check them out. You can say it's hearsay, that's fine. But I'm just presenting the facts to you. You don't have to say you believe or not, because like, I'm just telling you, this is what the people who did the research reported that was being told to them. So as I'm explaining the zombification process to you, I'm relating what I've read. So when you ask me, is this real? According to them, it is. Okay. But I'm saying, and you know what's funny? Even when I was making the video, I remember I told people in one of the videos, I told people that, you know, I'm a Google scholar. So that means that I will get things wrong, because, you know, I might not get, like, you know, it depends on where my sources are coming from. Because again, I don't have firsthand sources. I'm not the actual researcher doing this. I'm relying on other people, right? Even saying that I was a Google scholar, people were like, oh yeah, what do you research? What is your PhD in? And I was just like, I was making a joke. I Google. That's
Google
what I mean.
scholar.
Like, I look things up. Like, that's what
some
I
people
mean.
don't.
Like,
some people don't even know how to do that though. Like,
I was like, I mean, I have my own doctorate, but like, it has nothing to do with any of this. Like, that's completely separate. I am not an anthropologist. I am not, like, you know, I am not a sociologist. I'm not any of those things. You know, like that's my life separate from TikTok. It just so happens that I know how to look things up. So, but when I tell you, so many people are like, oh, where do you research? What university? I'm like, Google. I'm like, is this not a common term?
The University of TikTok? I don't know what
that's exactly.
Like, what? So
Google University. Okay.
So now so tell the story of the man, because this is like,
okay, but okay, so for the zombification process, you're poisoned, you're buried, you're dug up, you are sedated, and this person essentially takes advantage of you for an undetermined amount of time. And that is the zombification process. So because basically it is another type of endangerment. Like, you know, people liken it to, like, oh my God, is this another type of forced labor, slavery? I'm like, you know what? I mean, you could call it that way, you know, because it is forcing somebody and submitting somebody into labor against their will. Yeah, you could call it that. And you know, I remember when I was making that series, that's actually the thing I was concerned the most about having a lot of backlash about, like, people, like, about people wanting to, being upset that I was spreading this information and implying that, you know, Haitians were slavers and stuff like that. I was very worried that might be when I tell you nobody made that point, nobody got to that point. Nobody made, like, nobody took it there. Like, everybody was arguing with me about, like, you know, oh, Jesus was a zombie. I'm like, oh God. Oh my God, I don't even.
Wow, that's actually an interesting concept, though, to say Jesus was a zombie.
Well, no, he died. I mean, according to the book, if they're following that book, he died.
He didn't die.
He straight up died. So
what's the point, though?
What do you mean?
Of zombification? So it doesn't benefit the zombie, right?
No. So okay. So and we can start talking about Narcisse, because Narcisse Calvius was the person who, like, my whole case study was about. Jesus. Now I'm making it sound like I did not do any research on this man. I was just relating and stuff. But my video, it was a 3-part video, and it was focused around the story of Clairvius Narcisse, where basically he ended up, like, he was a controversial figure in his community. He had some issues with some women and not, taking care of his kids. And he ended up having a dispute with I believe, one of his brothers, and he stole one of his brother's inheritance. So the brother went to the baka, which is a, I guess,
like a shaman. That's how I.
Yeah, but how did I forgot the term I used, because I tried to be respectful, because again, this is not my practice. Kind of like somebody who does like a sorcerer type of person. Yes. So he went to a baka, and his brother commissioned him to become a zombie. So his brother had the baka turn him into a zombie. So from what I remember for witness is that, so he was poisoned, went to the hospital. He was pronounced dead at the hospital, I believe, within the first 24 hours, or either the first 24 hours, 72 hours, I can't remember. And then he was dug up. And then after that, the baka took him to sugar plantations up in northern Haiti, where he was working there for about 2 years. But then there was this whole zombie revolt, because they have to be maintained on this strict diet of sedatives that keeps them all mild and stuff like that, in order for them to stay under the control of the baka, right? So I guess somebody broke through or whatever. It's a whole thing. So somebody broke through, and they had a revolt, and they murked him. They had a whole thing, whatever, and they ran away. They got freed of him, and once they got freed of him, because he knew that it was his brother who had him turned into a zombie, he spent the next 16 years kind of roaming around Haiti, not being very afraid to go back home, because he didn't want his brother to get to have him murdered this time.
To murk him?
I think he only went back home when he heard that his brother died. So, and that's when he reconnected with his sister and stuff like that. So, and at that time when he went back, that's when he actually became viral for the 1960s. People were like, wait, what do you mean you're alive? We have records, pictures
showing that buried you.
So yeah, he was the very first viral zombie patient, because his case was very well documented, because he had gone to the hospital. They had a death certificate for him, pictures and everything, and he came back, and it was funeral, everything. So they had records like stacked on stack on stack. So this is why he is right now, or at least at the time. I'm not sure if there's been other cases that have been documented as well as his have been. This is why he became the most famous zombie at the time. So, and this is why the guy who ended up writing the book, The Serpent and the Rainbow, and ultimately the movie, which whatever. Sorry. He was sent by Harvard to kind of look into it, because they wanted to know about the formula of the zombie drug. You know what I mean? So quite a few people went back. They tried to get their hands on it, because it was like a hidden secret, whatever. So a lot of different entities tried to get their hands on it. Apparently, some pharmaceutical companies did achieve some certain success with certain things that were able to kind of glean from it, but supposedly nobody has gotten the formula. I don't know if they have. I didn't dig deep enough.
If they get, I'm moving to Mars if they get any ounce of that.
Wait, this is not the propaganda podcast, okay? I will not, I as far as I know, they were not able to get their hands on it, because it is a well kept secret. The guy who did tell the scientist who went over there and gave him all of the information, apparently when he came back to the US with the formula and stuff like that, most people said like he was a hack, that most of the active ingredients like wouldn't cause what they're expecting. A lot of people would say that, it's essentially just poison and a lot of like psychological tactics. It's not an actual drug that does this. So there's been a lot of controversy from the research that he did, and also with the drug that he claims did it. So there's been a lot of like back and forth with the scientific community on that one. So, but to me, it didn't change the fact that it was interesting how he ended up being at the center of like the international community, because everybody wanted to know how is he alive?
Yeah.
How did we do this, and can we get in on this? And again, as far as I know, they never found out. But most importantly, the reason why I even took the time to even tell this whole story is because after finding out, how someone becomes a zombie, where the word zombie comes from, blah, blah, I wanted to know, why did we, because remember I told you my initial fear was that people would be concerned about why is this barbaric like practice in the first place? Because this is practically because this is trafficking. It's kind of, it's another way to traffic people. So why is this even a thing? And it took me a little while to, it's funny how the fascination with the actual zombification process is so much that there wasn't a lot of information about the origin of the zombie. And as you found out in one of my, I think in at least 2 of my videos, I made sure that I pointed out that the reason why the zombie even became a thing in our culture is because during slavery time, it's always slavery time, always. Mm-hmm. During slavery times, when we were first brought onto the island, there was we were just unaliving ourselves at a very, very high rate. So one way that they concocted to keep the slaves alive, not only did we come with a lot of our beliefs and practices from West Africa, we kind of had something similar, because the root word of the zombie, it's actually it refers to a spirit kind of thing, but so they kind of morphed the beliefs a little bit to mean that that if you were an enslaved person and you were to take your life, the curse that would befall upon you would be to be a zombie, to be a zombie for the rest of eternity. And nothing
slave zombie, right?
A zombie, it's kind of redundant, because if you're a zombie, you have a master, right?
See, my brain even still, now that
because you're still thinking about the modern day zombie.
Yes.
Because that word is so ubiquitous with that, right?
Yeah.
So they spread this belief that if you were to take your own life, that means that you would end up being stuck on the island forever as an undead slave. And most slaves at least looked forward to, when they died, they would go back to Lankine, which is back home in Africa. They believe, they have their own version of paradise. So, and they didn't want to lose that. So they stayed alive, put up with the atrocities, because they did not, for fear of being being cursed into being a zombie. So, and as a result, I may very well be the descendants of people who kept on going because they didn't want to be a zombie. So, and that's why to me, it's kind of this is rooted in a lot of Black pain, a lot of Haitian pain. So I think my goal isn't necessarily to have people to stop using the term zombie inappropriately or anything like that, but at least to raise awareness about the fact that this actually means something to us. It comes from somewhere. And
it's cultural.
The thing with appropriation and erasure, right, is that that's with appropriation sometimes is that it leads to erasure. And
Yeah.
it leads to the erasure of millions of people who went through something. Like and of course, like the definition of the zombie kind of evolved over time, like, because at first it was a curse, and then it kind of became like something that you can do to somebody and stuff like that. But like after that, but that was post-colonialism. But pre-colonialism, it was a tool that kept enslaved people alive. And to me, I was just like, if I can share that piece of history, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it's already most people already know the zombie, like Hollywood's version. It doesn't hurt to at least also talk about the root of the actual zombie, of the Haitian zombie, even though, like, there should be a lot of discussions about, like, if those practices still happen, what can be done to stop them. I do not know the rates. I don't even know how I would even find that information.
Right.
That wasn't the goal that I set out to. It was more so about, like, a lot of time. I remember I heard once, I'm not sure where on the internet, somebody said everything is Black. And honestly, so far,
I'm coming to, yeah.
Let me tell you something. In my personal experience, if you scratch,
You dig far,
long
back
enough,
up.
you'll find that somewhat true. I promise.
I consider myself a non-religious spiritual person. I don't fall under any denomination or anything like that. I think all, like you mentioned, the voodoo religion, I'm probably gonna find a book to read up on it. Like, you know what I mean? I just find all religions, except for like Catholicism and Christianity, I find them all fascinating. Catholicism and Christianity, in my opinion, I find to be repulsive. But that's just because I grew up in the religion. But I consider myself somebody who is spiritual, and I have some practices that I do. And I think to myself, like, how many of these practices are coming from, African descent? And I would be willing to put money on it, money that A, I don't have, and B, this is me saying this ignorantly, I'd be willing to put money that I don't have on the fact that most of my practices are rooted, they have their roots in African descent.
Well, I said what I said jokingly before, but if you, again, I always like to do, like, a if or, but let me tell you something. If we agree with most scientific studies saying that humanity evolved out of Africa, wouldn't that mean literally everything is Black?
Yeah, and that's literally not controversial to say.
That's not even like a smart thing to say. If that is the birthplace of humanity, again, if you dig deep enough, you will find roots back to Africa. Like, you will.
Yeah.
That's not even, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not even that much of a profound statement to make, really.
Right. Not anymore. If you're open to that idea, which I feel like, how can you not be when it's fact? But there are people who are like, that's not true. It's like, okay, sir. Okay, Susan.
Well, I guess I can't stop myself. It's because one of my friends, one of his favorite sayings is that words mean things, right?
Yeah.
So technically, it's not a fact, it's a theory, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen time and time again, every now and then, like, some really rigorously tested theory has been disproved over time. It's happened. But there are some things that by now we're like, okay, we're pretty sure that this one is not going anywhere. Like, for example, because even something like gravity, till this day, it's still the theory of gravity. But if you still think gravity doesn't work, I challenge you to get on the roof and jump. See what happens. I'm just saying, there are certain things.
Test your luck, baby.
Test your luck. Do your own research. I highly encourage people to exercise their own scientific experiments. But it's more like, I think vocabulary is important because it gives us nuance about a lot of things. So this happens to be like, in sociology and anthropology, this happens to be a theory that the birth of humanity was from Africa. So when people say that, I'm like, sure, I guess it could be something else. But your version though is the alternative you're telling me is like what is it? The Bible is what, estimated to be what, 6,000 years old?
Yeah,
something like that.
It's
okay. Well, I'm pretty sure we could do some testing and see there were people here before 6. We've done tests that are people before that. So
I love the idea. When I heard it, like everything comes from Africa, I'm like, yes, that makes so much sense. I love it.
But it's true, because the thing about it is kind of like, you can have a theory too, but it's like, just like you can say that you don't trust our theory, we can test out your theory as well. And we can show you, again, there's evidence that shows there are people pre-Bible times. So what do you want to do with that?
Right.
So
I think this conversation too, like there are probably I would be willing to bet that most people listening or watching this podcast right now had no idea where this, and never even thought to question the origin of the zombie and how the modern day zombie as we know it, and what I would say is the real zombie are
the original zombie.
The original.
At this point, think about it this way. I believe the zombie, the Haitian version, was introduced to Hollywood, I believe, in 1918. There was a book called The Magic Island that was published in the US. They loved it. They ate that shit. They ate that shit up. And then I think the first movie that was made about the Haitian zombie was in 1932. And even then, they did not do it, the Haitian zombie. They did the white zombie, which is they took white people and turned them into zombies. But that's neither here nor there. Right. But what I'm trying to say is that, so if you take that into consideration, zombies have been floating around Hollywood for close to 100 years. So at this point, they have become their own thing. And if you understand how language works, you understand that it flows and that different things will meet different. And this is why etymology is important. Like root words, all those things are important. And also history. We are allergic to history. We are living in a moment where nobody wants to know the history of anything, and everybody thinks like it is what it is now. It's never been anything else. I don't want to hear about it because this is the thing that I know now. You shut your mouth and you're like,
but it's too ugly for people, I think. Especially, I mean, when you're going, not to make it a white and black thing or European and non-European, right? But
it is though.
it absolutely is. When you're the oppressor, the predator, the oppressor, you don't want to hear about your own shit. And I don't know if I sent you this book. I think I might have.
You did send me the link to something.
I did, right?
So, and even that statement. So, and we'll do a quick segue because remember I told you, and this time we are
on the record now.
I was just like, you know what? I've always said that I feel like I'm not educated enough to make certain remarks. But I will tell you this: even when, first of all, I understand the discomfort that race talks bring up, because guess what? As a Black person, I am not immune to that discomfort. It's very uncomfortable. I think it's funny that people who like when two people are having that conversation, a lot of people feel very uncomfortable and getting upset because they're like, well, what do you want me to do? My ancestor did this, but I didn't do this. It's like, okay, well, you're upset and you're uncomfortable. You don't think it's upsetting and uncomfortable for me, the person who's talking to you about it? Like, I don't want to talk to you about it. Right. I would rather we're doing something else. That's number one. But also, I think like language is important because like it's important that you just said, for example, you said that you're the oppressor or stuff like that. I don't know. So and this is why I feel like maybe I do not have enough information, but I feel like identifying with being the oppressor, if you ask me, and this is just regular logic thing, I'm not sure if that's useful or if that's accurate. We are right now, we inherited a system that was created by people hundreds of years ago, right? So you are descendants of those people, right? And
We're
because
benefiting.
because of the way that the system is set up, you were born benefiting from privileges. You did nothing to earn those. And I was born having those things against me again, and I did nothing to earn that.
Right.
So and we all uphold the system right now, right? We all participate in it because we're all trapped within the system. So unless you are actively making laws that worsen things, you're part of certain organizations that we shall not name that uphold these oppressive practices, or you're actively harming certain marginalized communities. To me, I always find it odd when people self-refer to themselves as why would you say that you're the oppressor?
Right.
Unless there's something about you that I don't know.
No. See, you're right. As an individual, Tori, I'm not. I tried to educate myself.
You may contribute to it.
Yes.
Contribute to it because, like, for example, like you mentioned, well, I'm not sure if
you can talk about I'm an open book. You can say anything.
Okay, so but what I'm trying to say is, like, you may contribute to it by, for example, as somebody who has privilege, if you've seen certain interactions and you didn't speak up, or you allow people in your personal space who knowingly cause harm to others with their ideologies, like you participate in it that way. So you can say, like, I contribute to it. But, like, I don't know, I think it is an interesting thing. I think this is another reason why people also get like I think there's also a book called White Rage. I think a lot of it, the reason why people get very upset and very defensive is because a lot of times it's because they are actively participating that they're upset. Because otherwise your language and your behavior will be very different. Because I happen to have, I have a few friends who happen to be white, and they just listen. And they don't necessarily identify with an oppressor. They understand how they play a part in the system, and they do their own research, but they will never come to me and say, woe is me. I feel sorry that I'm a white person. I'm so sorry that I'm doing this, or my people are doing that. They understand that they are individuals within a group and they do their best. And they also know, I also know, that they have family members who feel certain ways. And one of the problems is that they will probably never choose me over those people. And that's part of what makes it hard having these types of friendships, because you kind of know, like, there's a limit to how much that person will be there for you.
That sucks.
It does suck, but that is the reality, though. That is the reality, because, like, they love you, they want to be there for you, they're going to support you, but if it comes down to you or them, you're not going to be chosen. And this is another reason why sometimes I don't understand when people say, oh, people of color, or Black people specifically, hate white people. It's not hate, it's self-protection. Because, again, even the people who are allies, they have their limits. And again, that's not even a white thing, that's a human thing. Yeah. Most people will only offer you what they can offer you without like, they will offer you in anything that they're not losing.
Yeah, they're not altruistic by any means.
Like, it's not gonna be altruistic. Like, if as long as I'm not losing anything, I will offer you my protection. I will offer you my allyship. I will offer you, comfort and things like that. But the second I have to choose, the second I have to give up something, and honestly, I get it. I'm not saying it's okay, but I'm saying I get it. See, and I'm not sure if that's maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but I'm saying like, I feel like sometimes I feel like people forget the human component in all of these systems.
Yeah, I think that right. Here's my perspective, okay?
Okay.
Because, and this is maybe like, again, this may be a very dialed in individual perspective because of my own experience. But when it comes to my family, like you and I have spoken outside of this podcast, obviously I've told you some things. And obviously if you're a watcher or listener of this podcast, you also probably know the gist. I've spoken about it on this podcast, that I've had issues with family members, specifically actually because I expressed my backing for Black Lives Matter, and I got into a fight with some family members because of it. Literally on Facebook, all I posted, I swear to you, Izzy, all I posted was Black Lives Matter. That was it. That was my post. And it started a shitstorm. And so from my perspective, I've gone a year and a half without speaking to people simply because of that, because of the disagreements. So if it came down to it, and let's say you and I became really, really close friends, and my family members weren't, not that they would, what am I trying to say? If I got into that argument and it came up, I would have no issues being like, but again, I can recognize that the reason why I said was more selfish than anything. Now that I'm thinking about it, it was because they started attacking me as a person.
I was about to say, I was even actually going to follow you up with, I have my own story. Like, for example, 2020 was a real
eye opener.
Not only was it an eye opener, it was epiphany after epiphany and revelation after revelation. So I've had 3 periods of my life, because remember, I come from a very mostly homogeneous population. In Haiti, it's predominantly Black, right? Yeah. You know, there's colorism there, but we're all Black, okay? Yeah. So when I moved to the States, and you know, you can let me know if we're short for time. So when I moved to the States at 13, racism wasn't even on my radar. Okay. And I went to a predominantly white school. And as I was learning and assimilating into the system, I was told by the people in my environment that this was a post-racial world, and that racism was not real, and that African Americans in this country were the problem. And that most of the things, most of their woes, most of the things that they struggled with was because of their own misfortunes, that they were lazy, blah, 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 blah. Like the list goes on.
Violent, okay? Yeah.
All of that stuff. And you know, and I bought into it because I was just like, why would these people lie to me, right? So I lived for like the first 10 years thinking of how unfortunate it is that, you know, they can't just see outside of themselves, because again, I was in mostly predominantly white environments. And then I had my first unveiling where I started listening to podcasts. This is why I feel like I'm really happy to be here, because I think podcasts are very important, because not only because you may feel very threatened with a TV show or anything like that, but if you're just listening, I think because listening is such an important skill, and it's so important. Like if you just, a lot of times, if you're willing to listen to a podcast, you're already in a state of mind that you're sitting down and you're willing to listen. And that's already amazing. You're already doing something that
taking most people are not doing.
You're already there. So, and if you're listening to podcasts that are outside of the realm of things you usually experience, that's even better. And at the time, I had absolutely no Black American friends, none. And I remember one of my friends recommended this funny podcast called The Read. And I remember it was supposed to be just funny. So I started listening to it, and they started slowly talking about social issues. And and I listened to the whole thing. And after like listening to about a year's worth, I was just like, nobody's ever told me about any of this. And as I was listening, I was just like, oh, this happened to me. And this happened to me. And it was like, oh, this whole time during that 10 years, the whole time, I remember I had this ongoing joke with my friends about how unlucky I was. That no matter how good I was and how careful I was, the second I would like deviate outside of the line, I would get slammed by the book every single time when everybody around me, like that never happened to them. Like the repercussions never happened to anybody except me. And it's so crazy, right? I'm so unlucky. Never occurred to me that it was more than just bad luck. So that was my first, I was just like, oh my God. So that was the first revelation. And then in 2020, learning more about the history in this country, all of the atrocities that were done in this country that continue to be done in this country, and not only to Black people, but other peoples of color. It was just because of TikTok. TikTok did an amazing thing where I was able to follow a bunch of people from a lot of different backgrounds and learn a lot of different histories where I couldn't say that I don't know anymore. And I say all of this to say that last year, I ended a 14-year friendship. And this person I thought would be my best friend to the day I died. I really did. And did we have issues in our friendship? We did. Like, the friendship wasn't perfect. She was kind of very self-centered a little bit, but I knew she loved me. There was a lot of love there. But her stance on LGBTQ issues, like, she had a lot, like, the transphobia was insane. Like, I knew the homophobia was bad, but the transphobia was insane. And because there's been a lot of trans visibility, almost every conversation we would have, she would just be going off about how upset she was about this and that. And every single time I'd be trying to make her see, and she'd just be like, I just don't understand why it has to be such a big thing, blah, blah, blah. Until I had to have a friendship breakup with her. And I am very cognizant that when that happened, the reason why it happened is because I also think that personally, growth-wise, we were at a point that we had grown apart enough that it was easier for me to walk away from. But I had too much information for me to feel like I can no longer allow access to myself with so much, like, it was willful ignorance. Yeah. Because regardless of what I said, it didn't matter. She just wouldn't hear about it, and this and that. And, she was and even though, like, she had her own issues with the church, she was raised in the church, and, like, listen, that vitriol was there. It was very deeply rooted and stuff like that. So I made that choice, and everybody around me called me out, was just like, this is your best friend. Are you really? She didn't do anything to you. How could you do this? But I'm like, this is my choice, because I feel like, you know how there's that saying is like, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for anything. Yeah. Like, I feel like I made the decision in 2021 that there are certain principles that I'm going to abide by. And one of them is, if you do not have certain core principles, I'm not fucking with you, period, full stop. I'm just not. You can do whatever you can do whatever you want to do, but you're not going to have access to me anymore. Yeah. So I cut her off. Do you know how many people would do that? Not that many. No. But I also don't think that, I say this, I don't want you to think, I don't think that I am a hero. I think, like, there were other things in our friendship that also got me to that point. But almost everybody, when they heard the story, they were just like, so hold on. So she didn't do anything to you? No. It's like, you cut off a 14-year friendship over other people you don't know? I'm like, yes, most people are not going to do that.
Well,
And
you know what it is?
that's true though.
Beyond, and it's honestly, I mean, yes, the race issue, it's a fucking issue. And like we have to stop acting like it's not. And by we, I mean really white people. like like how you say, you know, when you try to educate people or explain to them, once you wake up to certain realities and you try to educate the sleeping people about the realities, and those people are given hard evidence and facts, and they're still like, well, no, because no, you're like, you have to, you there's what more can you do? You have to just
wash my hands.
yeah.
You know that video that I posted that you messaged me about? I feel like she said it beautifully. You remember the one that she was talking about, like there's a difference between having been told to be kind, having been told to not be racist. There's a difference between being told and having actually been taught to not be racist, because having been taught to not be racist means that you have a discernible set of skills and tools that teaches you how to dismantle a lot of these things.
Yeah.
And most people don't have those tools.
It's an
like,
understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you know, and I'm still learning. Because, you know, again, as an immigrant, remember, I was taught these things too. I literally had a person sit me down, go down the list of all of the, like, you know, minorities and what their stereotypes was. That was my experience as a person who did not speak English, who didn't know anything about America. I had somebody sit me down over lunch, this was in high school, tell me about Hispanics, Blacks, like tell me what the racial slurs are. I had to learn. I had a crash course in racism. Like that was my experience coming here. Because, and you know, and this is what's funny about like racism, because it's like, when people say it doesn't exist, but when you have somebody who knows nothing about it, they still have, and you don't know how these things work, they still took the time to explain it to me. So it's kind of like, if it doesn't exist, how come I had to have that crash course?
Right.
Why is that still relevant till this day? Because like, you know, like why did I need that? But so I'm still working on it. And I'm also at this point where personally in my own journey, there's certain topics that I personally I'm not equipped, or I have no interest in. I'm not interested in educating people anymore, because I'm not interested in arguing with you.
It's not your job either.
I'm not interested in educating people. I'll have conversations all day long, but I'm not interested in educating people. And I'm also in a place of, there's a lot of anger here. And I think I used to ascribe a lot to respectability politics, because as an immigrant, you buy into that hard. Most immigrants will tell you you're one of the good ones because you follow respectability politics. So I'm still kind of like unlearning that myself. And one of the big ones about respectability politics is being a Black woman who is loud. Like the worst thing you can be if you're a Black woman is if you're loud and if you speak a certain way. Yeah. And people always liked me because I was very amiable. I never really spoke above a certain tone, and I sound like this. And I'm working with that, because after learning as much as I've learned in the past year, I have so much anger. But again, I understand that anger I can't direct it at the people who, again, like you said, like you guys are descendants of those people. What flares up that anger is when people say it's not that big of a deal, or it's not about race. Yeah. Or my God, this and this. It's like the gaslighting continues, and it's like, yes. And you know, it's infuriating, and it's like you try not to take it out on people. So that's where I'm at in my own growth. I feel like, you know, there will be a point where I'm you know, the 5 stages of grief, because I'm grieving all of this, because I was happy. I'm not gonna lie to you, those 10 years, even though I was very unlucky, I was happy thinking that I was just like everybody else. Now I know I'm not. And
You
that
know,
broke
like,
my heart
you're
to
the
think that when I walk in somewhere, the first thing somebody sees is my skin. That wasn't, I didn't know that. I didn't think, like, when I thought of, like, when I think of Izzy, who is Izzy? Black wasn't the first thing I thought about. I thought about funny. Do this, like,
your
when I
interest.
describe myself, like, you know what I'm trying to say? But
Yeah.
it's like now I've had to, it's like accept this box that was given to me of like blackness, what it means to be black, and put all that armor on. And I'm angry that I have to do all of this.
And I'm angry for y'all as well, right? But I'm angry that there are people that would rather you live the way you were living for the 10 years. Like, there are people who are probably listening to this, maybe thinking like, well, what's wrong with her, thinking that she's unlucky? Maybe she is unlucky. Like, even still hearing this, saying that makes me fucking, oh my God,
I'm sure. You know what's funny? I remember, and it's funny that you say this, because for a long time, when I would say that I'm unlucky, people would be like, okay, you're exaggerating, right? And then I would like, okay, all right, let me bring out the list. And about 10 stories deep, people would be like, Jesus Christ, woman, really? Okay, this is insane. Like, enough. I believe you. This is crazy. So, and I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm so tired of telling these stories. First of all, I don't do that anymore. I don't tell people I'm unlucky anymore, and I don't tell people the stories anymore, because I'm not seeking validation anymore, because now I know what it is.
Yeah.
But I will tell you though, this is what makes this so insidious. It's because the way that the system is set up right now is the indoctrination happened to everyone. Everyone, regardless of your color, like, it happened to everyone. The veil was put on everybody's eyes in order to keep everybody calm. And when you start seeing beyond the veil, and you're trying to tell other people, you sound like a crazy person.
Yeah.
You sound like a crazy person, and you do sound like, oh my God, you're being so extra right now. I used to be that person. I remember like being the person like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing.
I'm the crazy person.
Like, it's crazy to, now that I'm on the other side, I kind of wish I remembered more of my mentality before, to see what I could say to convince somebody, because I wasn't convinced over one conversation. It was a progressive thing. Like I told you, I listened to that one podcast. I listened to 3 years worth of that podcast before I was just like, wow, that's 3 years worth of material. Who's gonna, I keep thinking about, if that didn't happen the way it happened, I would have been the way I was. It would have just been.
And then you would have been used, not to make it political, but you would have been used as the token Black person.
Oh, absolutely. Look at her. She's successful.
Right.
She's a first generation person. She has her doctorate. She's a professional.
She's a doctor.
She's doing it.
And she doesn't believe these things. And she's Black.
She's happy, that would have absolutely. Listen, I would have been Candace Owens 100%.
Right.
Although to be fair, I feel like there's been a lot of conversation back and forth about Candace, about like whether or not she's unaware. I think she's about the bag. I'm not.
She's about that money.
I don't think she believes half the things she says. She's trying to get paid.
She knows what she's doing.
Listen. By the way, please don't listen to me about any political things. I'm not informed enough. This is just from what I've surmised. I think, but I do not claim to be educated enough to make any kind of claims about Miss Owens.
Same.
Okay?
Who the fuck am I? I'm just a lesbian in New York. I don't.
But that's the thing. I feel personally, too many people are way too comfortable making certain claims. Personally, I'm not. I like to make claims after I feel comfortable enough. That I'm like, I've looked into it enough. I feel like I have enough of a background to be like, yeah, no. not gonna be it. That doesn't look right. I feel pretty confident because the thing about it is I'm also like very like anti-confrontational. I don't like to have confrontations, especially if I don't know what I'm talking about. Because the thing about it is, if you present a well-built enough argument, I'm gonna be like, well, true. I don't know. I've never understood why so many people are so afraid to say that they don't know. To me, there's nothing shameful about it. And I say it often. And that's how I learn. That's how I learn. That's how I grow. Right. I don't know. If you think you always know, you'll never grow.
Right. No, and that's it. You know, like I consider myself a very opinionated person. And so like you take that approach and I'm just like, I'm gonna fucking say what's on my mind and this is what I believe. And then like somebody will present me an argument and I'll be like, fuck, now I gotta go look that up because I didn't come in fully prepared. That's me, very impulsive with my mouth. But I'm not afraid to be like, well, you know what? I don't know enough. Like I've been in plenty of political debates with like family members where I'm like, I can't really speak on that because I truly don't know enough. And I'd be willing to, again, going back to the money I don't have, I'd be willing to bet the money I don't have that you fucking don't know enough either.
That's the worst part too, because a lot of times, and this is something I'm also trying to unlearn. I'm assuming people are approaching things in good faith. It's a problem for me. A lot of times, I know it's a real big problem because a lot of times people will argue you to the death and they don't know. They don't know, but they will argue you until the end of days. Like, this is how it's supposed to be, blah, 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 blah. So this is why I feel like like, again, this one friend that I keep referencing to, of course he's a lawyer, but he's like, this is why you're doing the arguments wrong. When somebody tells you this and this, you don't do your counter argument. You ask them more information about their argument. Like, oh, that's interesting.
Try to unpack their
exactly. Where did you get that from? Yeah. Why do you believe that? And blah blah. And I'm like, you see, that sounds good and well, but it's like if I'm emotional or if I'm upset about what they're saying, maybe I'm not thinking about that. For me, a lot of times, especially if you already push my buttons, for me, I just don't want to have the conversation anymore because I'm just like, you know what? I don't know why this is wrong. I just know it's wrong. I don't have any counter arguments right now.
So the vibe is off.
It's like, this is not right. This doesn't sound right. But one thing to me, probably the most crazy thing I think anybody can say is that didn't happen. I'm always fascinated by how many people, and I'm sorry to say, in my personal experience, it's always been, non-melanated people who feel very comfortable saying that
never happened. Yeah. That doesn't happen.
Either that never happened or that doesn't happen. And I'm just confused. Well, I'm like, based on what?
Right.
Like, what
well, you get into the conspiracy theory side of things too and I've witnessed my family do it plenty of times where even with like critical race theory, like this is a true story. I'm sorry, Dad, if you're watching, but like my niece is going to be 7 years old in July and she's very androgynous as a woman. My sister's also gay. So she has two parents, one that dresses like me. And so nobody pushed it onto her, but she just feels more comfortable dressing masculine. And we're just like, everybody, it's just like, live your life. So she gets bullied at school by kids who were raised a different way. You shouldn't have two moms. You shouldn't dress like a boy, this and that. So she's depressed. At 6 years old, this kid is fucking depressed, saying things. So we had to take her to a psychologist. And I love how I say we. I'm like her third mom. That's why we had to, we had to like find a specialist for her. And I'm telling my father about it. And he goes, his immediate reaction was, What are they teaching her in school? Are they teaching her critical race theory? I'm like, what the? I started screaming. What in God's name does that have to do?
To do with anything.
And then he brings up, it's critical race theory. Then he brings up trans people. Like everything goes back to trans people. And like
right now, it's insane that everything for people like that, why are they the boogeyman right now? This is bizarre.
I don't fucking know. I really don't. I don't. With this fucking Uvalde shooter, there's people out there who, I don't know if you've seen videos, but they've purposely taken a trans androgynous creator who looks like the shooter, and they've taken pictures of this creator in like dresses, and they've made compilations saying that it's because the shooter was trans that he started shooting children in the schools.
Oh, Lord.
When it's really two different people. And the person who they took the pictures of, I'm not articulating this very well, but the person who they took the pictures of and like said, oh, this is the shooter, came out and he's like, I'm not these are pictures of me. I'm not the shooter. i.e. I'm here, I'm alive, I'm not dead. That's how I know that, like
I'm not the shooter.
Right.
I exist, I'm still here.
Right. They didn't kill me. So, and that's me. Like two different people, but they're trying to really, but the point that I'm trying to bring forth is that you're so far on this one, it's not even a right or left thing. You're just so far into this ideology that when your 6-year-old granddaughter is depressed, your first thought, your first line of defense.
So
what?
Yeah, I love saying like that is so sad for your niece.
Yeah.
And also for your dad too. Because the thing about it is like this would have been an opportunity for him to be supportive and being there. Like, you know, like everybody's missing out when he like all of these ideologies hurt everybody.
Right.
Not only the people who are being marginalized, you know, I mean, clearly they hurt those people the most.
Right.
But, like, especially because, like, you know, they have the highest, you know, like murder rates right now. But, like, I'm saying, like, clearly them most first, right? But it also hurts everybody else, like, just like, you know, with your niece and also with him. It's unfortunate, really.
Yeah.
And
I know. I don't know how we got here, but
I was gonna tell you something. I was thinking, you know, it's funny. So, okay, I think I was thinking about, she's 6. She has so long to go. I always think about, like, for me, I'm not even sure. Do we still use the word tomboy? Because I feel like I grew up as a tomboy, like from get-go. All right. And, you know, and I'm a bit of a, you know, oh my God, what was the word that I have a mutual who used that, my mutual used that word the other day, and I was just like, I need to start using that as part of my vocabulary. What did he say? Oh, I can't remember. But basically just that, you know, you are a respectable, like undercover hoe or something, whatever. What I'm trying to say is that, you know, clothes ain't stopping nothing. You know,
right.
if there's a sausage that I'm pursuing, I'm gobbling. Do you understand? So what I'm trying to say is, like, I don't understand why people are so focused on, like, your presentation. That's just what I prefer. I like the androgynous look. So I actually sometimes like the masculine look. I like it. I'm attracted to it. Like, it's like, and this is why for me, I actually thought it was helpful when I started learning more about the difference between sexuality as well as gender identity. They're not the same. It's like, but it's just like,
yeah.
Like, to me, that's actually helpful because it helps you know about yourself. What was wrong with knowing more about who you are and helps you navigate through the murky waters of all of that BS?
Yeah.
So to me, most of my life growing up, and it doesn't help that I'm bald now. People have always thought, like, you're on the other side. I'm like, listen, I'm not saying no to the right woman, but I am telling you, right now, you know,
we love the dick.
So far, you know, strictly dickly. you know, but I'm also this, and this is the thing. This is what I'm saying. Like, and like, I just know that I never know. I never
Yeah.
know. Because I can't, I've been attracted to women before. So what I'm trying to say is like, I understand that even sexuality is on a spectrum.
Yeah.
So like, again, with the right person, I can see it happening because it's not just about the physical when it comes to that stuff. So like, but like, we're talking about a 6-year-old, none of that is important, but I was just saying like, I was very happy wearing my boy clothes.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that your niece doesn't have hands because I used to duke them out at school. I did. Like, I was the, you know, I'm sorry to say this, but like from first to like 4th grade, I guess I was, but see, even then, I guess you could say that I was the school bully, but I was the school bully with a purpose. Let me explain real quick. Because the thing about it is
Like the vigilante.
I beat up so many boys back in the day, but it was like the boys that were not acting right. Okay. Because like I actually literally became known as like, you know, like almost kind of like the godmother. Like the girls would come to me, so and so said so and so pushed. I'm like, got it. You don't worry about it. Like at lunch, I'll take care of it. And I would just beat them up, you know? And what's funny, because like, you know, I only gave out beatings, like, you know, with like morality involved, the boys were cool with me too. I was cool with everybody.
They're like, yeah, you know, we really fucked up.
Yeah, exactly. They'd be like, you know what? If you're getting beat up by Izzy, you probably had it coming. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, at that time, I was bigger than all the other boys, so I would just beat them up. But then, like, you know, like I think like in the 4th or 5th grade, I came back from the summer, and all the boys were bigger than me, and I got my ass handed to me the first couple of weeks of school, and I was just like, you know what? I feel like I have a good enough record. I'm gonna put my dukes down, but like, you know, and again, listen, just focus on other things because this is. I'd like to keep my teeth. I've already lost all my baby teeth. I think I've had too many L's in like 1 week. Like I got my ass handed to me like that whole week. So and I'm not saying that violence is the solution, but sometimes violence will help you. I'm not like, this is a horrible stance for me to make.
Not officially.
Not officially, but I'm just, let me tell you something. The thing about like, when it comes to bullies, they respect strength. They do.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they're dealing with their own issues, and also like they are cowards themselves.
Yeah.
And if they know that you can take care of yourself, they're not messing with you.
Nope.
So parents can do a lot, but a lot of times, like, unless like the kid unfortunately either has to change the way they look, or they have to put up with it, or you got to put your dukes up. Like that seems, it's unfortunate that seems to be the way it is. Did you ever experience bullying?
Oh my God. I'll send you.
Okay.
I did a whole podcast episode. Actually, I think it was like a 3-part podcast episode. I was badly. I was like physically abused. And it's sad because, and I talked about this in the episode, but I was verbally and physically abused and like depressed and suicidal and all of that. And it turns out both of my bullies are now dead from drug overdoses, both of them.
Wow.
So it just, you know, and I talked about that, how it just goes to show how it's kind of just a full circle thing. That, not to say that, you know, give the bullies a break or anything like that, but it's more.
No, but they were going through something too, that they were just taking it out on you.
Yeah, I was just the target. And I think that's why it's so important to fucking have conversations with people, you know, just like the one we're having now, about like educating people on the histories of certain things, but also as individuals speaking about where we're at in our lives. I feel like, yeah, I grew up hating these two people. If I ever saw them or heard about them, it was like a, ugh, you fucking piece of shit type of thing, to now having empathy and sympathy for whatever it was they were going through when they were doing what they were doing to me, you know?
With your niece, is it a group of kids who are doing this or just one or two? Do you know?
It's one or two, and they're boys. And the common denominator, I hate to say, is a certain leaning of ideology is the common
Because I was
denominator.
gonna say, like, is it possible to have an open dialogue with those parents? I'm like, well, you never know. You could but hold on, no. We laugh. Again, to me, it's like the only thing that they can say is no, right?
Right.
So I, especially like if I had a kid involved, which, but I'm just saying, like it. But if I did, I have a kid involved, like, you know, at least I'd try, you know, just to have the conversation for the sake of the kid.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the parents, at the very least, they were notified and they were mortified when they found out. But at the same time, where is this 6-year-old getting these ideas?
Yeah.
You know, I think it comes down to more. Yeah, you're mortified that it came out to the forefront.
Yeah, you're mortified that it leaked out. You're mortified that people
You're not
know what you're saying behind closed
right,
doors.
right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's okay. I'm sure, like, where did they hear this? We know where they heard it, you know, and we know, we see you now. But yeah, I think it comes down to discussing the shit and having the conversations and learning. Like, it's really perpetual learning that needs to take place, and there are too many people that are just okay with what they think they know. Like, I would have been I would have been completely fine in my life never learning about zombies and like the origin, like where, like
Because you didn't know. You didn't know
right,
what you didn't know, right?
right. I would have been completely fine. I could have gone my entire life like, all right, cool, zombies, right?
This is why I'm telling you. I think TikTok can be a force for so much good because there's so many people in there and you can learn through so many different lenses. However, comma, I feel like in 2020 specifically, because we had a common like enemy, which was the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like there was a feeling of community and everybody was kind of sharing and everybody was willing to teach others and learn from others. It was a beautiful time. Were you on TikTok at that time? It was a beautiful moment for a little while. For about 6 or 7 months, everybody was willing to talk. Now we're back to screaming at each other. I feel like honestly, now TikTok is feeling very much Facebook-ish lately.
Yeah.
Everybody's screaming, nobody's listening, and it's unfortunate. And it's unfortunate because in my lifetime, I had never seen so many people willing to listen, willing to learn, and all that's gone. And it's just like, damn,
it's crazy.
Did we have to revert so quickly?
I was just about, how quickly we forget, you know, like, it's like, we're all in this together. And then like, it's like, fuck you piece of shit. Like,
exactly. Yep.
Yeah. We're back to square one. And I don't know if it's, you know, human nature. It feels like it's, at this point, it's human nature for us to just.
Oh, no. Yeah. You already know my stance on that. What did I say? I forgot, like, you know, exactly what I told you. I feel like, to me, and, you know, this is the nihilist in me a little bit, but you know what? I personally feel like, you know, at base level, we all suck. We all suck. We do. Personally, I feel like we all suck, but we have the capability and should strive to do better.
Yeah.
But we all suck at our base level.
Yeah. We're all
starting. Which is why, like, we start right here. We all suck, all of us. Nobody's excluded. All of us suck, and then some of us put in the work because I do think it takes effort to not be a crappy person.
It does.
Now, I do think it also takes effort to be a hateful person. So like there's a line here. So, you know, it takes effort to be a good person. It also takes effort to be a hateful person. So you can stay in the middle and just be crappy. You know, if you want, just mind your business, just do what you do, right? That's fine. If that is the vocation for you, fine, you know, viac on whatever you believe in. But I try. I do my best because this is where I feel better.
And you know what? I try, and I consider my level of trying to not even be that much trying, really. You know what I mean? But I do agree. Yeah, we all pretty much suck. It's like a video game. You start.
That's where you start. That's a starting point right there.
Yeah, you got to start at suck. And then what are you going to do with that suck? You know, I could have easily came across your video even and been like, oh, there she goes talking about slavery. It always goes back to slavery. You know, I've spoken to so many white people who are like, well, slavery happened like however many years ago, you know, they're not slaves anymore. Like literally recently had a conversation with somebody, and inside I was cringing. Outwardly, I was like, okay. Okay. Like, you know, she could tell in my face that I was disagreeing, but like, but that's like a common consensus. So like, what are you going to do with the information you're given? And I think that's the fucking most important part. You know what I mean? Like, are you going to just dismiss it? Are you going to obsess over it and like learn as much as you can? What are you going to do with it? And how are you going to show others that this sort of shit exists? I guarantee you there is nobody listening to this right now who even knows the original zombies.
Well, they could be. You never know. Maybe they did see the viral video. That's possible.
Right.
So I will give you two takeaways because I feel like we probably went over the 1 hour point at this point. So I'll tell you two things. The first thing I was thinking about is, man, I've already forgotten my first point. So I'm gonna go to my second point. I always think it's funny. I've completely forgotten my first point. Damn, I was like, well, it wasn't gonna be a good one too. But I'll come back to my first one. I'll wrap up with my first one. I'll go up to my second one because I have it fired up. I always think it's really funny when people say, oh my God, slavery happened so long ago, who cares, right? And I think it's really funny because if I were to tell that same person, like, you know, oh, I remember how you were telling me, like, you know, you have anxiety because of the trauma you had when you were young, like I said, and you know, they'd be like, yeah, I was like, you know, be like, well, it happened a long time ago. Why are you still talking about it? Like, they'd be like, what's wrong with you? Like that impacts me. That like what happened to me when I was younger, like impacts how I am now, right? And I'm like, oh, so you see how the past affects the present? Oh, okay, fine. You don't like that example because, you know, it involves you. Okay, fine. I'll use another example. Okay, so let's think about a house. If you're building a house, if you had a shitty contractor who did not lay the foundation properly and stuff like that and still build you a house, and you walked in and your foot is like going through the floor and stuff like that, like, oh, what I'm trying to say is that nothing happens in a vacuum. And to believe that everything does, like whatever happens, and it didn't affect. If you've never either heard of the butterfly effect or seen the Ashton Kutcher movie, honestly, I'm concerned that you might be stupid, just a little bit, because I don't think you understand how time works or how life works.
We're all residual effects.
Everything is related. Everything is connected. Anything that happened before impacts and influence what happened here before. We had to put down the flooring before we put up the walls, the roof. Like, you think if they put the roof before they put the floor, like that makes no sense. You know what I'm trying to say? So I always think like it's not even that deep to rebuff any of those kind of statements. I'm just like, oh my God. Anyways, but
that was my response.
It's like really like it's not, you don't even have to be that bright to understand like object permanence. You know, most 3 or 4 year olds get that. They understand that when an object is there, like it's actually there. Like, you know how they use peekaboo and like, but eventually they're gonna stop. It's gonna stop working. I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. Like It's there.
I
I
get it
understand.
now.
It's not going to go anywhere. So like, you know, you might need to look up object permanence. You might look up how time works, all these things, because I'm concerned about you, bestie. So that's number one. And number two, I was just gonna say, it's like in something that we talked about in on Instagram, is that, you know, if you are a person who's a descendant of colonizers, right? And by the way, in America, this happens to be white people. It varies across the world, right? But, you know, since we're in America, you know, we're talking about that. But if you are a descendant of, I think one of the things that's the most important is to understand that how that history impacted the world that you live in, but be careful to, this whole concept of white guilt is not beneficial to you, to your mental health, or to POCs. Because God forbid you approach a person of color telling them, I feel so bad, I hate white people, I this and that, because you are approaching a person who is actively in a system that is harming them, and you are essentially looking for somebody to make you feel better, to pat you on the back, to tell you it's okay, you're one of the good ones. It's like, it's literally not about you. Because again, unless you're actively participating in it, and we talked about that earlier, you're doing these laws, you're upholding these laws, or you're actively harming people, it's literally not about you.
Right.
It's not about you, what you can't do. It's not about you. The only thing that you can do is you understand how you contribute to it and how you benefit from it. And because you have the color for the protection, what can I do to help you?
Yeah.
How can I be there for you? White guilt is bullshit and is actually another tool to perpetuate oppression. So yeah. I understand you think that feeling guilty makes you a good person. That you feeling guilty and having empathy are not the same. Because feeling guilty, it makes it about you. Please don't make it about you. Please don't. And this applies to any other marginalized community. If a person who is part of the LGBTQ community comes to you and you're like, oh, I've heard so much about the gays and what they're going through. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was this person. Please don't make it about you. They're going through some stuff right now. Please stop talking and listen to them. Listen to them. Yeah. Do they need shelter? Please listen. Listen. What can you do and just be helpful?
I've reached out to a lot of like I'm all over Black Talk. You know, I support a lot of Black creators. I listen, I comment when I feel like it's necessary. Like there are certain things I'm like, well, I shouldn't really be speaking on that, you know, whatever. And I've reached out to a couple of Black creators, and I said, I was like, what can somebody like me do? And she was like, that's it. You reaching out to me asking, what can I do, is literally enough. And even if it's just creating a space where you're listening, like I'm allowing somebody the space to speak on their experience without any input, without any like, I hate myself type of shit. Like that's enough, you know. But you always, you know, I always feel like I should be doing
Be careful about that. Even that one, I think that's a good thing depending on the creator. Some creators actually market themselves as like they're teachers. They're here to teach and stuff like that. If they're not, please don't just reach out to a person of color and ask them, what should I do? I heard what happened, Trayvon. Like, what should I do? Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Because there is literally you can look for those creators who are actively doing that stuff like that. Like, please don't make the onus on the person of color to again teach you what you should be doing. There's books that you literally can Google it, and some of them have videos where they have research. I mean, they have videos and playlists of like, this is what you should read. Like, you know, I think one of the big ones that they talk about often is White Rage. And the list goes down on books that you can do to self-educate. And then you can join certain organizations and help that way. But to just randomly reach out to Black creators who maybe might be talking about something that involves Black trauma, and you're like, oh my God, what can I do? What should I? It's not always the right thing to do. Now, I don't think it's wrong to ask if it's like, if there's an open dialogue, like I think most people will be like, you know, but just be careful, like to, even with that, like I think there has to be some sort of discernment to see like, is this the right person to be asking? Like, for example, you know, consciously, that's what he does. Education is elevation. If you were to ask somebody like that, that's fine. That's what he does. He teaches people. He would be like, yes, let's talk about that.
It was
a random person, like, you know,
no.
please don't do that. Don't come on their comments and be like, oh my God, I feel so sorry. Please tell me, what can I do? How can I
please direct me?
No, don't do that. Please don't do that.
It was Voodoo Bay. Have you ever heard of her?
That sounds really familiar.
I'll send you some of her videos.
Okay, cool.
The specific video was basically, she was debating about how it's been scientifically proven that Europeans lack empathy for, like, I guess like genetically lack empathy.
That sounds familiar. I might have seen that video.
Yeah, and I saw that and I was like, that sucks. What can I do then, like, as a white person, to like not lack empathy? Like, I don't want to lack empathy. And she was like, read this. Like, she sent, that was the book that she was.
You see, okay, that's a perfect video to reach out. Okay, so you see, context is important, right? Remember we talked about discernment? Context is important. That's a great video to reach out on. But if, like, let's say somebody was talking about some kind of massacre or something, and then, like, you know, there was just because I see it in the comments. Like, you know, that, you know, the US government, like, murdered this entire town, killed like thousands of people because of nothing. And then people are like, oh my God, what should I do? I'm so sorry, I'm white. Ma'am, do you not see people grieving here? Read the room. This is not the time. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And I feel like in this, it doesn't even have to be a Black thing. It's literally anything. You know what I mean? Can you imagine if somebody made a video about, like, you know, the shooting in Texas, and somebody's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You know, I live in Germany, but I want to learn more about gun control. Like, what should I do? Where should I go? People are like, get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about? Again, I feel like sometimes common sense is dead, bro. That's all I gotta say. Sometimes it's just like, it just takes a little bit. Just think about it before you post. Reread what you just said. Like, just reread it and think about it. Like, if this was your video, how would you feel if this person left that?
Okay, so I'm in therapy, right? Okay. And I had a therapist say to me, it was actually my mother's therapist, but, you know, think before you say things, think before you do things. And there's an acronym. Is it thoughtful? Is it honest? Is it informative? Is it, what's the N? Nice? I gotta think of what the N is. And K, is it, oh man, what's N and K? I don't know. I'll figure it out. But it's like, you have to make sure that before you're saying things, you're like thinking about these things, you know, does this make sense to fucking say this right now? Or, you know,
nobody's doing that on the internet.
No.
You and I, we've been creators on the internet. You know, when people are like posting comments, they're just dumping on, it's just like it's just cockroajetting all over the comments. Like, nobody cares. They're just posting whatever the hell. You know, like, I do have to go in a little bit, but like, listen, like that video, that the first video that you saw, do you know how many people sometimes, and even like outside of all of the negative comments, that people will be like, so I'm confused, Izzy dead? But like, how did he come back? And I'm like, but did you watch the video? But like, how many seconds in are you leaving this comment? Because it's like, you know, and it's funny.
But did he die? Bitch.
Like, did you watch the video? Did you? Because that's my first question to you. Did you watch the video? Because I feel like I answered that question multiple times in the video. So, you know what's funny? I'm actually thinking about merging over to YouTube. And I actually have a YouTube link on my page that is absolutely empty, has absolutely nothing in it. But I've known that the type of content that I make is TikTok is not my audience, but I've persevered anyways, just because I feel like I have this very toxic relationship with TikTok, and it when I started posting on TikTok, I didn't expect that I'd continue making content. It was the first place that I posted something in it, and then I found out I had a passion for it. So, and I kept posting. So I've been meaning to make the transition over to YouTube, and haven't done it yet, but the link is there. So hopefully I will be doing that soon. But any advice from jumping over from TikTok to over to YouTube?
Well, okay. My advice, don't abandon TikTok. Use it. TikTok is incredible as a funnel to bring people.
That's not been my experience. I have 100K on TikTok, right? I have 200 followers on Instagram.
Fuck Instagram. For some reason, it doesn't translate.
That place is crazy. I don't know how to grow on there.
Yeah, no, it's honestly same. Like, I don't even know how I did. I think I just hit it at the sweet spot because now it's slowed for sure. I actually might even be losing followers on Instagram. I don't care. Like, fuck Instagram, genuinely.
Okay.
What you want to do is, the way you use Instagram is reels. Whatever you're posting, I think you do this though. Whatever you post on TikTok, take it, you post it as a reel on Instagram, and then like just put the right hashtags and you'll end up on like a discovery page, because Instagram's trying to be like TikTok.
How do you figure out what's the right hashtags? Everybody always says that put the right hashtag. Because for me, I always put hashtags about what the video is about. Perfect. Apparently, is that not what the way people do it?
No, that's perfect. And then think of like trending topics around what you're.
There's always something else that people don't tell you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, how do I know what a trending topic is?
Okay, so in your
Okay, you know what? Maybe this is not the way to end this.
All right,
but I will say, like, the point I was trying to make is that my adventure on TikTok has been fraught with a lot of struggles from day one. And it's funny how, like, you know, recently I went over 100K, and that should have been a celebration because I've been on TikTok for over 2 years. But it's like the entire time I've been on TikTok, I've had to drastically change my comments at different periods of time in order for the algorithm to allow people to see my content. Because initially, I did start out as a page that I posted social commentary, and very quickly, it just, my page died. Then after that, because I literally couldn't get any views, I started making like this fantasy series, this original fantasy series, where I was talking about things that were going on in the world in TikTok through the lens of fantasy. So I did this series, an 11 episode series that was talking about everything that was going on. People loved it. TikTok hated it. I had to stop. And then I switched my format again. I kept switching until finally, like, I feel like my creativity and everything has kind of been diluted. And at this point, at 100K, different people have followed me for different things depending on the videos that went viral. And if you ask people, what is her page about? Chaos. That's what my page is about. I have no idea, because I'm constantly struggling between what I want to talk about and changing my format so that I can be seen. So even at 100K, I still don't have high visibility. So hopefully
it's tough.
With my excursion over to YouTube, that will help, but we'll see.
Well, either way, and this is where we can wrap it up.
Okay.
I'm going to leave your TikTok. I'm going to leave the video that I came across. And then if you want, give me the link to your YouTube. And
that's empty.
the empty link. Fuck it. If y'all want to follow her for her future videos, because I'm sure the way you put videos together, by the way, is chef's kiss. Like I was watching your videos like yesterday or even today, and I'm like, these are really put together. Like they're nicely. So you're gonna get good content if you follow her.
You want to know what's sad? That video was a year ago. I changed my format after that too. Because I realized that when I made, because those videos were like 3 minutes each, right?
Yeah.
TikTok doesn't like long videos.
I know.
So I had to change my format again. And it's funny that first of all, thank you so much for that comment, because it took me so long to make those videos. It's interesting that so many people kept telling me, this was to me my peak editing era. People kept telling me this was put together so well. It actually felt like a TikTok documentary. Yeah. And people loved it. Yep. And yet, like right after that, I continued in that vein, 0 views. And I was just like, damn, I had to change again.
If you put those on YouTube, chef's kiss.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, maybe I will, because it's just like I miss it. It's a labor of love, because let me tell you something. I've been on TikTok for 2 years, have made $0 the entire time. The entire time, $0 on TikTok. I'm not monetized because everybody, like within my own circle and in the Black community, knows that if you're struggling with views, getting monetized is the worst thing that you can do, because it's gonna absolutely kill your page. So I've never joined the creator fund, and I've never gotten any kind of sponsorship deal or anything. So I've never made $1 from TikTok. So all of this I did for free just because I love telling a good story.
And you do tell it. You do tell it well. Enough to be here, you know. Like I come across so many people on my For You page. I don't want to say I'm selective, but not everybody makes me want to jump in their DMs. So
and honestly, to me, probably the biggest compliment you paid me, because I remember my goal with my page when I started was, I want to start a conversation, which seems so silly and so small, but that's been really hard to do, because a lot of times, like I told you, people don't watch the whole video, and a lot of times people are just not interested. They're just not interested in what I have to say or the topic at hand. But to me, that is like, you know, if you ever want to know what my page is about, or at least what my philosophy with content making is, I want to start a conversation, and this is why and I like telling good stories, period, full stop. So
yeah, and you do. And seriously, thank you for letting me take up all of your fucking time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my mom is gonna yell at me, because she's like, you said you were gonna be done at 9. So I'm gonna blame it all on you, by the way. This is your fault.
Totally.
Like 100% your fault, because you knew. I'm just kidding. I had a really good time, and clearly you see, like, if I'm enjoying myself, this is what I've always said, like, if I'm having a good conversation, you gotta cut me off. I like you gotta cut me off. I like to talk. So
I'm the same way.
I didn't talk over you. I hope this was you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. So
thoroughly. I never, when I do these, like I said, an hour. Normally it is an hour. We've been here for 2, and
no,
I could do this. Like I'm telling you, you're gonna be back. I'm having you back.
Okay, and I'll make sure that if I do come back, and we're probably gonna, I know what we're gonna forehand you. I'm gonna be prepared though. No, I'm gonna be prepared though. I don't know. So make sure you're prepared too.
I'll be prepared too.
I need you to match to match my offer.
We'll vibe out on what you know.
Exactly. So I'll make sure that next time, because I as much as I think we should kiki and, you know, talk shit as much as we want, but I also think it's important, if you have that platform where people are listening, it's also good to educate them as well. So if we can give them good information, we should.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to have you back.
Oh, thank you.
It was nice to officially meet you.
I know, likewise. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching, you guys. Hopefully you'll follow all of my thingies
in the links below.
Yes.
Have a good one.
Bye.